All right, good morning and welcome to the CSU-UC Event Professionals Network, our hot topic for January, commencement and beyond. We have a great program planned for you today. We've got some great speakers and we're going to go ahead and dive on in. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Phyllis Grillo. I am the chair of the CSU-UC EPN, at least for a few more months until our new president or chair-elect takes over the reins in July. And so that's a very exciting time for all of us. Looking forward to seeing everybody at the conference. If you haven't already made your reservations and gotten information, please mark the calendar dates, July 9th through the 11th, and we're going to be at UC Berkeley, and we're very excited to be at UC Berkeley. I'm going to go ahead and start with introductions. We have four great speakers for you today. We have Melissa Hentz and Jackie Fuller from SDSU, San Diego State University. Melissa Hentz serves as the Director of Special Events and Ceremonies, while Jackie Fuller is an event specialist at San Diego State University. Both are proud alumni of SDSU, and they bring nearly 30 years of combined experience in planning and executing large-scale events. You'd never be able to tell they have 30 years between them. They both look like they just got out of school themselves. And they have a particular focus on the university's commencement ceremonies. In their roles, Melissa and Jackie oversee all aspects of event planning and execution, from coordinating logistics and timelines to managing budgets and ensuring accessibility for all attendees. Their expertise lies not only in creating seamless and memorable ceremonies, but also in fostering collaboration across campus. Together, they lead a 50-member committee comprised of representatives from SDSU's academic colleges and a wide range of departments and units across the campus. Really happy to have you both here, Melissa and Jackie. Also with us today, we have Carol Ullum from UC Berkeley as the Director of External Affairs. Carolyn serves and engages UC Berkeley's external and internal community through programs and events and services. She works closely with campus constituents, including donors, alumni, students, faculty, parents, visiting dignitaries, government officials, and the local community. She's a busy woman. She has worked for Cal for 15 years and is also the proud alumna as well. Effectively translates her constituents' needs and priorities into customized programs to create enhanced and sustained relationships, and advises the university community on all matters of protocol, including visits by high-ranking government officials. Prior to serving as the Director of External Relations, Caroline served as the Program Coordinator for the Simons Institute and as an event specialist in the External Relations Office of Protocol. Welcome, Caroline. We also have Carmela Arstil with CSU Long Beach with us today. Carmela is the Associate Director of Events and Commencement and is an event pro with over 20 years of experience making magic happen. Having worked at CSU Long Beach for 4 years, she is a master at planning, budgeting, and wrangling vendors to pull off flawless events, big from 100K, 100,000K, or small to 10 people. Carmela loves creating unforgettable experiences and always goes the extra mile for her clients. When she's not planning events, you can find her catching waves, cruising on her bike, or paddleboarding with her trusty sidekick, Waffles, which is her dog, of course. All right, and with that, we're going to launch straight in, and Melissa's going to start us off. Melissa and Jackie, get away.
Let's share that screen with you and get our slides up, and then I'll let Melissa kick us off. Everybody can see, thumbs up. All right.
Great. Thank you, Phyllis, for that intro. And hi, everybody. We are excited to talk about all things commencement today. We're going to provide an overview of our ceremonies and the changes we've made in recent years. Just like all of you, we really learned a lot when we had to pivot during the pandemic, and there was a huge opportunity to rethink our ceremonies. We did many surveys and focus groups to really glean, what is most important to our graduates and their families, and how do we create a ceremony that is worth sticking around for? Historically, we had issues with graduates leaving once they crossed the stage and, their name was read. So really, we've been looking at over the years, how do we make them stay? What's most important to them, and what will keep those butts in the seat, right? So now we're going to kick it off with a short video.
looks very exciting, gets me jazzed. See that the arena all decked out, but I'll let you jump in, Melissa.
Okay, oops.
There you go.
Okay, great. So an overview of our ceremonies. We have one spring commencement, which includes 10 ceremonies in May. And so we start off with our Imperial Valley, SDSU Imperial Valley ceremony in Calexico. So that's Thursday evening. And then we move into our 9 ceremonies at our main campus at Viejas Arena, which you saw in that video. So that's Friday through Sunday. So we have 3 ceremonies, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have, and this includes 7 undergraduate ceremonies and 2 graduate ceremonies. We have on average about 12,000 eligible grads every year, and typically we have a 75% participation rate, so about 9,000 grads participate during commencement. And then over those 4 days, we have 50,000 plus guests attending the various ceremonies. So then moving into the graduation fee, I know this is really a hot topic, and thank you, Phyllis. She had sent out an email recently trying to collect information from all of the campuses and created a really helpful spreadsheet resource for all of us that hopefully we can keep updated. But we just wanted to share, we do charge a fee to graduate. So it's an apply to graduate fee, and currently it's $112. And 49% of that goes to our commencement budget. So that helps to fund all of the ceremonies. And then 51% goes to enrollment services. So that's really, that covers staff salaries, graduation evaluations, diplomas, diploma covers. And right now, our expenses, you can see we are approximately $850,000 in expenses for commencement. And that has almost doubled since pre-pandemic. So we are actually looking at increasing our graduation fee this fall, just really to help offset our expenses and our costs. So, and we can talk more about that as well. So now Jackie's going to move into some of the changes that we've implemented in recent years.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, so as we get started here, talking a little bit about the changes that we made when we knew we had to pivot and after the pandemic and make some changes. So the changes that we made that we're hoping to not only enhance the student and guest experience, but also keep those butts in the seats, because it was getting very sad. And I know I've spoken to actually many of you on your campuses when that last graduate crosses and all of their friends and fellow graduates have departed. And so we didn't want that. We were thinking, well, what can we do to really enhance this event so that students are sticking around, especially because we are already running, as Melissa mentioned, 9 separate ceremonies on our main campus, 1 ceremony on Imperial Valley. And so what changes can we make? Let's, ask the graduates. So we did that. We put out an extensive survey, and focus groups where we asked families and we asked students, what is the most important thing to you for your commencement experience, your ceremony? And probably not very surprising, students wanted to hear that their name was going to be read as they crossed the stage. They wanted as many possible tickets for their guests as possible, which would mean, obviously less graduates per ceremony so that we could have more guests per graduate. And really they wanted all of this amazing stuff to happen in the least amount of time possible, right? Like a TikTok. So so we were like, okay, great. So we took all this feedback back to our leadership, who was fantastic, and said, you know what, you're right. This ceremony should be student focused. It's about our graduates. It's about our students and their families and friends and loved ones who are celebrating them. You're right. Let's start. What do we need to do to make these changes? And let's communicate that down. So there was immediate feedback from the leadership on San Diego State's campus, which again, we're so lucky and thankful that we had, because sometimes that's your stopping point. You don't have that, but we did have that from our leadership. And then that was communicated down throughout the rest of the university to the colleges, deans and different faculty members, because each college was having their own, type of ceremony with its own culture and identity. But we wanted to all have the main focus, which our students. And so really a big part of getting the ceremony to look like to be more student focused and to look like what our graduates were hoping for was to really take a take a scissors. Is that take some scissors to that script, and to really take out anything extra, anything that was redundant. I mentioned to Melissa, wow, we used to have 3 different welcomes to the graduates because we had the president welcome the students, we had the provost welcome the students, and then we had the dean welcome the students. So, can we maybe just have one welcome? That would be great. So little things that were maybe kind of obvious, but we really hadn't looked at them with that fine-tooth comb. So we did that. We got creative with video and using our amazing video board that's in the arena. And we started videotaping the president's welcome, and some of our student speakers, which we can talk more about if people have questions, because then they could be time specific. So we know we have a video of that. It's a great use of the technology in the arena. It can be captioned, really easily. So accessibility was there. And we know it's 2 minutes, it's 1 minute. We know what it is because it was filmed beforehand. And then really just taking all that extra time to make name reading the focus, which is what we know our students wanted. Um, so diving in a little more deeply on those script changes, what you're seeing here are the things that were, kind of redlined out of those scripts, that we could do. So I mentioned those dean welcomes, which they could be customized, shortened, and gotten down. And so what you're seeing is the number of minutes that saved per section. So 2 to 5 minutes just alone in savings of welcomes from the dean. Also, we used to have all the different colleges were introducing every single person sitting on stage by name, which is lovely. But there were some colleges that had a lot of people sitting on stage. So depending on the size of the platform party, that could save up to 5 minutes of the ceremony. Again, I mentioned that president's welcome and the charge. That was put together in a really nice highlight video, that was shortened. And so that saved a good 10 minutes from the ceremony, and then also added that video element to the ceremony. And then we used to have an alumni representative, someone, a member of the Alumni Association, come in and make a speech or make remarks specifically. We were able to include those with either a dean's remark or with a student remark. We were able to incorporate that alumni piece elsewhere without having that need to be a whole separate speaking point. And so you can see little amounts of time, but that all added up to 23 minutes of time that we saved per ceremony, which is, for those doing commencement events, we know that those are huge numbers. And we did want to point out here that what you're seeing on these notes, these were our undergraduate scripts. So Melissa mentioned, we're going to talk about it next, but we do have 2 ceremonies that are focused just on our graduate students. But these changes were specifically made to the undergraduate ceremonies, and really also just streamlining those so that every script template, because every college used to write their own script before, Melissa has done a really good job over the years getting everyone kind of on the same template, which is great for these time savings because they're across the board, but also great for, I was a coordinator at the college level at one point, and it's great to have a template, no need to reinvent the wheel, right? So finally, I wanted to mention those editions of the graduate study ceremony. So this is something that came about. We're going into our 3rd year that we'll be having a College of Graduate Studies only ceremony. So we pulled out all master's and doctoral students from their academic college ceremonies and gave them their own ceremony. These were separate ceremonies that allowed kind of the identity and the culture of a graduate student to really be highlighted and focused. And it also took the pressure, a timing pressure off of those undergraduate ceremonies, because when graduate students were in those ceremonies, they were all being hooded. There may have been doctoral name readings and things like that, dissertations being read. So there, depending on the college and how many graduate students they had, some had very few. Some it was, sometimes half of their student population. It really helped take the pressure off of those. So they've been really exciting. So as I mentioned, we're going into our 3rd year, and even that has seen some changes. So our 1st year, it was just one big, massive ceremony with all of our graduate level graduates, and it was too long. And so again, took that feedback, and then broke it the next year into 2 ceremonies, which we will be repeating this year. So now what you're seeing on the screen is kind of a breakdown of 2019. So our last kind of traditional in-person ceremony before we really did those focus groups and surveys, and then last year's ceremony, 2024, by college. So you can see that those graduate studies ceremonies, obviously they didn't exist in 2019, so that's why they're blocked out. But you can look in those columns and really see the number of, those are graduates that participated and then the time length of the ceremony. So overall, you can immediately take a look and say, wow, good job, ladies. That has been cut down, a good number of times. And we know that this is why our students are sticking around because they stuck. So specifically, you'll see in the business college, in 2019, there were about 1,500 students. That did include their MBAs at the time. Last year, the MBAs were in their own graduate ceremony, and there were more than 1,800 business students. And you can still see that we've shaved off 20 minutes of that ceremony. So that's something we're very proud of because you're looking at, wow, we've increased graduate numbers, more graduates crossing the stage, and we're still able to get the time length of the ceremony down. And then another one I'll highlight here is Health and Human Services. You can see that they had 1,200 students in 2019, 945 in 2024 last year. They do have a good amount of doctoral and master's students in health and human services. And so taking those students and giving them their own ceremony was able to take a lot of that pressure off. So you didn't have the hooding that was taking place that caused their ceremony in 2019 to be almost 3 hours long, 2 hours and 40 minutes. Last year and the year before that as well, less than an hour and a half. And we know, obviously, we see this chart where the numbers are reflected in going down in length, but we also see we know that it's working because the students stayed the last 3 years. Our students have stayed for every ceremony, except for that first grad studies one that I mentioned that we had to make a pivot and adjustment to the next year. But they're sticking around. The students are sticking around, and obviously their families and loved ones are sticking around because their students are there, to the point where we had to make some adjustments with our parking because they had never had people all leave at the same time. And they said, whoa, whoa, guys, we need to put a little bit of more buffer between you before you start your next ceremony, because everyone didn't leave during the ceremony. So we were really excited about that. And it allowed us to add a little bit more fun elements that Melissa's going to talk about here as I turn it back to her.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. So really, our biggest priority now is to keep the ceremonies student-centered and fun. Really just looking at it through the lens of our graduates. What do they want to see? Who do they want to hear from? And so one of, the thoughts was each ceremony should have a student speaker. We didn't always have a student speaker. Some colleges did, some didn't. So now we've incorporated that every single college should have, it's the outstanding graduate for the college. They should also provide remarks. And this past commencement, because we were concerned with possible protests, just like all of our campuses were obviously preparing for, we did actually pre-record all of our student speeches. And so that was, a first for us. As Jackie mentioned, we have shown the president's remarks as part of a video. So we were moving in that direction, as far as pre-recording videos. But this was the first time we did it with the students. And it actually really worked well because then we know exactly what they're going to say. There's no surprises, right? And and also, it helps us just from a timing standpoint, if they need to shorten their remarks. So that was really good. And, we still allowed them to come back and do the tassel change at the end. So we still wanted them to have that opportunity to speak to their fellow graduates and lead the tassel change. So our president really liked the student speeches being pre-recorded. So we will continue to do that. I really just see that really being just the direction we're going to be going and moving forward. Also, just recognizing honors and outstanding graduates. So I just touched on that, having your outstanding graduate address their class. But we also have our outstanding graduates. So we pick outstanding graduates for each major school and department. So we have them seated on stage, and they're able to choose their most influential faculty member. So that's really an honor for them to be on stage, as members of the platform party. And we ask them, they're, acknowledged by name, they stand up. So that's really a nice touch, during the ceremony. And then Jackie talked about, and you saw in the video earlier, we added streamer cannons. And yes, it's an added expense, but the way we looked at it, we can maybe trim our expenses in other places and add something that's really going to have a lot of impact. And it's so fun to see their expressions when when it happens, they walk out, with the streamers, wearing them. And we actually in the script, we have the dean say, we have a special surprise for you that you're going to want to stay around for. And that's kind of another way to get them, okay, I'm going to stay for the tassel change. I'm not going to just leave after my name is read. So that has really been working for us. And we're going to continue with the streamer cannons. So then now moving into our digital program. So we have gone completely digital for our commencement programs. And also our GradFest brochure. So for GradFest, we used to mail a brochure to all of our graduates, and now we are just sending them a postcard. So we still have some expense with the postcard, but the brochure, they're now being directed to the brochure online. So that was a cost savings there. And then going completely digital with our program. We print programs for every single ceremony. So by doing this, we have saved over $100,000 in print costs, which is huge. And so not only are we saving the money, but we just are, obviously trying to be more sustainable. We would, in prior ceremonies, we would pass out programs to our graduates, and they sit on the arena floor. And we would also pass out programs to our guests, and the grads would leave and they wouldn't bring the programs with them. So, we were just every commencement throwing away programs, recycling them, but still it was just, why do we keep printing them? There's really no need to do that. But we did want to, because we were, launching this completely digital program this past commencement. Before that, we had a digital offering as well, and the print option that we would pass out to only guests at commencement. But this past commencement, it was all digital. But again, we still wanted to have a print option for those guests who may want to have a keepsake program. Maybe grandma still wants to have a program. And so we would actually, what we did is we worked with a vendor, a local print vendor, and we created a portal working with them that's basically from our commencement website. It links out to their portal, and it allows graduates to order a keepsake program. So Jackie, can you go? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I'm moving into the keepsake programs, and I wanted to actually talk about, actually, Jackie, you can go back to decatalogs. Sorry. I'm just getting all excited here. So this is an example of our commencement program. So we actually use a decatalog. That's the platform we use to display our programs on our website. And maybe some of you are familiar with decatalog, but it's a really great platform. You can, when you're viewing it, the pages flip. You can search for your name in the program. You can download it as a PDF. You can share it on social media. You can print this too. So this is how we display our digital programs. And then at the ceremonies, we have QR codes everywhere where guests can just scan the QR code and open the program. And it comes up on our Jumbotron. So we have a message with the QR code. So we really put that everywhere. And of course, in our communications that they receive, prior to commencement. So that's the digital program. And Jackie is going to drop a link to the programs on our commencement website. And then what I started to talk about earlier, we still wanted to have a keepsake option for our families who still wanted to order a program. So we worked with a local vendor here, DPI Direct, and they created this portal for us. So from our website, you can click on this link to the portal, and they handle all of the fulfillment, the payment, everything. And so people can order copies of their program. And so you can see here's an example of our arts and letters program. And so each program is about $23. And once you add it to your cart, you can increase the quantity and then the price goes down. So of course, the more you order, the less the unit price per program is. So we did launch this keepsake option this past commencement, and we launched it a little bit late, so we didn't have a ton of time to really promote it to our graduates. But what's interesting is we received less than 200 orders. So, I think we're going to try it again this year, and we'll promote it, sooner, earlier. And but I think what that says, though, is that people are okay with digital options nowadays, and they may not, want to buy a keepsake program. And so, but it's nice to have that option too. So we will continue offering it. But like I said earlier with Decatalog, you can still print the full program from Decatalog as well. So let's see here.
Melissa,
oh yeah.
Also wonderful. I'm so sorry, but we're like a little moving on our time. So if you can go ahead and cover this one and then move on, because I want to make sure that Carolyn and Carmela have their time to speak as well.
Yes, thank you, Phyllis. So just
You're
quickly
welcome.
to wrap us up, new for 2025, we are looking at some ways to generate revenue and offset our costs. We'll be charging parking for the first time this year. That's a first for us. So $5 prepayment, and then day of $10. So that will be, we'll have QR codes where people will pay the day of. We will not be, citing anybody. So really it's going to be on our system if they've paid. And we'll see how that goes. And then just lastly, we're always looking at new technologies to add to the back end and for our grads. And so we're adding a chatbot to our website. We're actually working with Marching Order, their new package where they offer, or now Tassel, I guess they are called. We'll be working with them to create this chatbot. So that's our ceremonies. Looking forward to answering questions during the Q&A.
Well, that's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much. And I know Cal State Monterey Bay is doing the same thing with adding a chatbot. So embrace technology. Carolyn, and moving right over to you. Let's hear about UC Berkeley's ceremony.
Great. Hi, I'm Carolyn Allum. I am one of the directors of external relations. Similar to San Diego State, our office that plans the campus-wide commencement is housed in university development and alumni relations. I know there's a lot of different reporting structures in higher ed when it comes to commencements. I've been working on and off on commencements for about 12 of my 15 years at UC Berkeley in a variety of roles. And currently I'm helping coordinate the department graduations that we have. I'll talk a bit about our formats, but I've also been the lead for our spring campus-wide commencement and assisted in all different aspects of all different things. So quick by the numbers for Berkeley, our fall 2023 enrollment is about 33,000 undergraduates, about 12,600 graduate students. For our campus-wide commencement ceremonies, the participation in our winter ceremony, we do have a winter ceremony, is about 1,000 graduates and about 9,000 guests. For spring, it's about 8,000 graduates and 20,000 guests. Those numbers have been higher, and that's one of the things that I will address. So first up, we've got our campus-wide commencements. Those are university-sponsored and planned in partnership with our Senior Class Council, which is a student group on campus that we work closely with to select speakers and entertainment, and they're really our thought partners and the voice of our students. Those ceremonies are open to all undergraduates and graduate students in every school and every college. Those ceremonies are where we have a keynote speaker. In the spring, the student speaker is essentially the valedictorian. At Berkeley, there's a selection process for the university medal. So the university medalist is that speaker there. And for winter, we work closely with the Senior Class Council on a student speaker selection process that is chosen by audition. Um, as you might expect with a campus of our size and a single campus-wide ceremony, we do not read graduate names at the spring campus-wide ceremony. We do read them at the winter ceremony, and why we have that distinction is because we also have department graduations. So we have over 90 different departments and student groups represented that hold smaller, more personal graduations. Each of those groups handles its own event, registration, and tickets. And we communicate with the different coordinators on campus through a Google group for department coordinators. We've got drop-in sort of office hours where we can brainstorm. Occasionally we have planned presentations, connections with different vendors that they might want to use, campus partners, communicating timelines, deadlines, all of that. That's essential for us because, as you might expect, with 90 different groups planning some sort of graduation celebration, that's not the primary purpose of a lot of those individuals' jobs. There's a lot of academic advisors where that role doesn't fit into their job description. And so we try to give them all the resources that they need to be successful since we're in such a decentralized campus, especially when it comes to the department graduation ceremonies. Those department graduations take place in about 2 weeks following the campus-wide commencement ceremony in the spring. They're in a variety of on and off campus venues. They're mostly managed by Cal Performances and Berkeley Event Services, which is part of our student union. And it's completely up to graduates whether they attend the campus-wide ceremony, the department graduation, or sometimes many, or both. I think when we did a survey a few years ago, there was a statistic that the average graduate at Berkeley is attending like 3.5 graduation ceremonies every spring. So it is really a personal experience. Some of them want to come to both, some want to go to one, some want to go to the other. The way that we usually explain it, like colloquially, when folks call and ask about which ones they should go to, we just simply explain it as the department graduation is going to be a little more traditional, a little more personal, where your name is called. And then the commencement celebration really has a grander feel of being at a big university. And that's also an opportunity to celebrate with their friends in other schools and colleges. So that's really how we sort of present it to the students. Let me take a moment to talk about tickets. For winter, we charge for commencement tickets. They are $13 and all general admission in our basketball arena, Haas Pavilion. There's a maximum of 6 per graduate for the winter commencement. And graduates themselves also need a ticket, but there's no cost for a graduate ticket. We don't charge them to attend their own graduation, but we don't have a commencement fee. So, that's always kind of a point that we calculate when we're determining the cost of things at Berkeley. I'll go to a map of the spring ceremony to explain the tickets here. So the gold seats that you see, the lighter gold here, those are the majority of the seats. Those are $15 per ticket, and those have a direct view of the stage. There are also video boards in our stadium at each the north and the south end zones. And the slightly darker gold seats that you see here are only $10. So they're a little more affordable, but they are behind the stage. So they don't have a direct view of the speakers, but they do still have great views of the video boards. So it's not, I guess it's not an ideal experience, but it's one that some might choose, especially when you are purchasing your tickets. And then in the bottom section, you can see the club seating that is set up for football, and we access those clubs and charge $60 per ticket for seats in those areas. Regardless of where graduates sit, for spring, it is all assigned seating or reserved seating, I should say. You select where you want your tickets to be, specifically in which section. And it's a maximum of 4 guest tickets for that ceremony, plus the free graduate ticket in the graduate seating area that you can see is now on our east side of the stadium. We do also, I'll mention, have a need-based program for tickets for students who are receiving financial aid. So we work closely with our financial aid office to communicate, and anyone who reaches out to us with a need, we use the financial aid office as a very light way to verify eligibility. and offer that. So if you prefer a real life picture, this is sort of our setup where we've got the stage in the south end zone, graduates over on the east side, guests all through the bowl. And you can see that some of these sections are blocked off, but you can see that there are not as many people that choose to sit there. Or with this ceremony that wasn't sold out, perhaps they bought tickets there and then just found their way into unoccupied seats in the rest of the bowl. So a few years ago, we went through a reimagining commencement process. I guess I'll back up there. So we very similar to San Diego State, we surveyed our graduates. We also surveyed our parents, found out much of the same thing that they did. They very much want to celebrate with as many friends and family as they can. The most important thing is hearing their name read as they cross the stage. So that, verified for us that we shouldn't get rid of name reading at the winter ceremony. We shouldn't do anything to eliminate department graduations. If we were going to add name reading at the campus-wide ceremony, that would be a value add, but obviously very complicated. So we needed to consider that sort of thing. So we landed on 3 different models, and the one that we were leaning towards implementing, we put pause on that because of leadership changes at the chancellor level. The outgoing chancellor didn't want to make really drastic, significant changes until right before leaving office and having someone else come in and inherit all of that. So we came up with a few different models. One of them is very similar to what UC Santa Cruz does, if you've heard of their slug walk, and I'll save that for Q&A if folks want to hear more about that model where you're walking across the stage, having your name read, and the ceremony part is a lot lighter. We thought about doing something more similar to San Diego State, where we are reading names at the big commencement, but there are several big commencements. And then what we landed on was making smaller changes to our current ceremony. So there are the big issues that we were really trying to address in 2022, and here's a photo from 2022, were capacity, graduate seating, and accessibility. So at that time, graduate were limited to 10 guest tickets, so higher capacity. That meant we sold out well before commencement, and that created a lot of undue stress. They were also general admission tickets, and so that meant that people were spreading out quite a bit. We called it butt math, how many people you have to plan for to be in a section when you are not assigning seats. You can also see that because these students were seated on the field, a lot of them wanted to get up and go say hi to people and take selfies and enjoy the sunshine and the nice grass and run around and play. And it was fun. It was a festival vibe, but it was not a protocol ceremony commencement vibe. And certainly to some people, it felt disrespectful of the momentous occasion that we were there to celebrate. And in a very Berkeley way, we had to figure out how to let people celebrate in all the different ways. The campus fire marshal also raised egress concerns. So we talked about changes to the venue and updates. And this is our after. So now we see the graduates up in the stands, as I showed you in our diagram. And that meant that we needed to reduce the number of reserved tickets per graduate. And it has been manageable since, with the exception, of course, of protest. Everyone's favorite thing, especially at Berkeley. It is really a part of our history. And so our protest plan is really tied in a few different things. I could do an entire presentation about protests, so I'll just hit the very high levels. The things that allowed us to be the most successful were coordinating with all of our campus experts really early and often. Again, we have a history of protest at Berkeley, so we have a lot of campus expertise, and not trying to figure it out ourselves, making sure that we were working with the people who are already experts was essential to our success. We came up with a scenarios document of all the different things that we thought might happen and what we thought the responses should be, put those in front of senior leadership, had senior leadership sign off on them in advance so that there weren't any surprises. Um, Lots and lots and lots and lots of communication. We did, and staff training, we made sure that everyone knew what their roles were, but more importantly, were not. You do not need to intervene unless you have that training, et cetera, et cetera. We made sure in briefings that we were making it very clear to everyone that there was a high chance of protest, so that there were no surprises, so that speakers weren't uncomfortable, making sure that we were really clear about like the priorities that we had of having commencement continue and it still being celebratory, but also prioritizing free speech, especially at our university. We started with a civility statement that was also posted on our website. Fortunately, we were in a venue where we had some really strong existing security policies. And so we already had great infrastructure there. So we did make a few logistical changes, and I will wrap up with showing you this diagram. We made some changes on the field, but the main one logistically that we did was we created sort of a moat here, and we used hedges so that it didn't feel like it was, police barricade, and it felt a little nicer. Most of the police that were present were who would have responded to anything happening on the stage. We had in these tents so that it wasn't this massive police presence that was distracting from commencement. And this was all part of our scenario. So I'm happy to answer more questions when we get to Q&A. But I think that's probably enough to get started. But let's also connect. I'm happy to talk about any and anything, everything, all the time with anyone. So thanks for the time, and I will turn it back to Phyllis.
Thanks, Carolyn. Really appreciate that. We have got lots of questions in our queue, so we may end up having to spend a little bit of extra time if we want to cover all those questions, but I want to turn it over right now to Carmela to talk about protocol, because if commencement's all about pomp and circumstance, I don't know what is. So Carmela, take it away.
Great, thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen with everybody. Can everybody see what's going on? All right. So I'm going to do this quickly. I don't think I have much time. So
you have time. Don't worry. Don't rush through. Just take your time. And
I'm rushing.
Yeah, super excited to be sharing the guide with us too. So everyone, you're going to get a little takeaway today that you can download.
Yes, and I'm happy to share my slideshow and our protocol guide as well. I presented this at NACO last year, and so I modified it a little bit, but tiny bit about CSU-UC. We have around 34,000 students, 7 colleges. We only coordinate college ceremonies. We don't do one big one, and we don't do little school department ceremonies. We have last year, we had over 16,500 eligible to participate in commencement ceremonies. Average, we have 12 to 15,000. We only have a spring ceremony in May. We are housed under University Relations and Development, and our fee to graduate is creation and mailing of diplomas, check completion of graduation requirements, and a little bit does come to commencement. We are 2-hour ceremonies, including processional. We chop those kids in and out, and we keep our spoken program as slim as possible. And we just added name reading last year due to all the protesting. Cultural ceremonies are coordinated by Student Affairs, and we do not do that whatsoever. Purpose of our guide, we put this together because there's so much need for it, and we found out most institutions don't have one put together, so we thought we should do one. It's a justification for why we have protocols. Why do we wear regalia? Why do we wear sashes, and what are the tassels and the different colors? And why do we have scepters, etc.? Preserves and honors the university's traditions. It ensures consistency every year and within each ceremony. It has cultural significance for each of the ceremonies, for safety and security, time management, identity and belonging of students and to their colleges and to the overall university, and the continuity and legacy of the university. There's for diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging. We select speakers from diverse backgrounds. We foster a respectful and inclusive environment for all. and we discourage discrimination and accommodate physical, religious, and cultural needs. So why have one? We have one because it covers regalia. I'll show you a quick screenshot of our protocol guide, but it has platform dignitary roles, processional order, commencement versus graduation, and universities' traditions and legacy. We don't have a lot of traditions, but if you do, that's why it's important. The planning and rationale behind various aspects of the ceremony. That's for that's for faculty, that's for departments, for graduates, for their families and friends, why we do and why it's necessary to do what we do. Most importantly, it's a body of knowledge for commencement. It's our who, what, where, why, when, and how. How did we put it together? We reached out to our sister CSUs and UC commencement planners, our collective experience, input from executive team and college coordinators, and institutional history is 99% campus ceremony based, and there was none related to a stadium-based ceremony. This is our 5th year at Angel Stadium, and we didn't have that protocol, so we needed to add that into our guide. Resources, we leveraged ACE, NACO, CASE, peer institutions, internal resources, and then we're continuously adapting, aligning with evolving best practices and student needs. And this is my last slide, but I'll show you a little bit about the guide and what we do. We're going to start adding a little bit more for campus ceremony if we have it back on campus again at some point. If we ever have a fall ceremony, at this point, we're hoping we don't. Platform party, since we're more and more traditional, the roles and members of platform parties will change. Cultural graduations, add basic protocol so as not to compete with them. Volunteering, which we've now changed to participating. Recruitment best practices for MPPs, represented staff, and alumni. And we already added this from last year, and it's a disruption protocol. So from our risk register to staffing an on-site EOC, our emergency ops center, interventions, time, place, and manner. So with that, let's see, let me go ahead and see. Sorry, while I, let's see, end my show and I go to our protocol guide. Can everybody see this on the screen? Great, great. So this is our protocol guide that we put together, and it's from history of Cal State Long Beach, how to figure out expected graduation term, difference between graduation and commencement, what degree conferral is, all the way to, okay, so this is what we added just this past summer, was our disruption protocol. From guest treatment, health and safety violations, program interruptions, whether it's on campus or at the stadium, intervention steps. We have a graduation risk register. I'll show that in a minute. And our disruption script. And I'll show a little bit excerpt of that. And then how we distribute tickets. Kids, we always have questions. Do we have to have tickets for kids? Graduate lineup, seating, academic costume code. So the American Council on Education, we used a lot of their information. And then gowns, hoods, permissible exceptions, and honorary doctorates. And then let me put this down and pop this up. So we added this last year on where we would put for security personnel, ejection, programmatic pause, stays interruption, all the intervention steps, especially due to the protests last year. And then we have a graduation risk register. So it's a description of the risk, example, asteroid, extremely low, impact rating high. And then what our actions are going to be, severe weather, a graduate who shows up who hasn't completed requirements for graduation, banners, speaker cancels, and then disrupting approach, etc. So we have all that in there, and it covers everything, and it's a great reference for all of us to be able to look at this. And if risk management asks us, or the president says, hey, we're coming up and we're having a protest, what do we have lined up? And we can say, oh, we have this, and this is what we've looked at. So there's that. And then we also have, let's see, I have one more to show, I think, and that is, let's see. I wanted to show the script. Okay, so here's our disruption script. For example, our voice of God. Before we begin, this is what they would say. And then in case of disruption by protest, the VOG will go on and say, we regret a few people have chosen to disrupt our program. And then if we have eviction declaration, what the VOG will come out and say. And then if we just have a brief delay, then also what they'll say. And if we have to end it. So we have several things in our script that we will invoke if any of these things occur. And it's nice because then the president and the deans and everybody else has information and reference of what we're going to do. And students, if they ask us, we can refer to this as well. Hey, if this goes on, this is what's in our protocol guide, and this is how we handle it. And same with any dignitaries, anybody else that comes. So that, my friends, is my presentation in a nutshell.
Great job.
I spoke as fast as I could.
And you did a great job. And I know we all have the ability to listen at a fast rate because we're used to moving at a quick pace. But you did a great job on that. Thanks to everyone. But so I do have some questions that were posted into the chat. Some have been answered, but some haven't. I'm going to just run through these. We still have about 8 more minutes. So the first question was for San Diego State. Does your ceremony timing include your student processional?
Go ahead, Jackie.
No, those timings do not include the processional. So those were just ceremony start length, and the processionals, depending on the size of the college, they're usually 15 to 30 minutes, depending how large the college is. So,
all right. And for those campuses that are using marching order or something that reads names for the students as they cross the stage, do you feel this helps reduce the ceremony time versus a live name reader?
We use marching order for our winter commencement, and some of our departments do. In general, yes, I would say our experience has been that it is faster, but I saw Whitney in the chat saying that she's had a different experience. I think the other big value add for us with marching order was about inclusivity. There's an opportunity to provide phonetic pronunciation, to record your name as your name is correctly pronounced, so that the names that are being said as students are going across the stage are how they're actually pronounced, which can be really disappointing if someone messes up your name on one of the biggest days of your life. So in general, though, when it comes to speed, we've found that it really has to do with how fast folks are clicking, how fast they're walking, and one of my favorite commencement hacks is to play pomp and circumstance at 1.5x because it actually makes your graduates walk faster.
Makes sense. Melissa, Jackie, Carmela, anybody want to add in on marching order, or is now it's called tassel?
Tassel. Yeah, I would agree with what Caroline said. We use it as well. And prior to that, we did have professional name readers who were great, but I do see some time savings. And then we also like having that lower third come up on our Jumbotron. That's just a really nice addition. So yes.
We use
Carmela,
marching order as well. And what we do is, Whitney brought up a good point. There's a slight delay between when the scan is and when the name is announced. We use that extra time for that student because we happen to have a huge stage and for them to get across it. So when we scan, they're walking so that by the time that the name reads, they've hit their mark and they're right there in that frame to be photographed. So for us, the delay actually helps.
Well, that's really interesting because Cal State Monterey Bay is going to use marching order this year for the lower thirds, but we're remaining with our live announcers. So we'll be able to give you some real-time feedback on what that looks like, if it saves time or how the combination works. The next question is about really everybody. If your ceremonies are held outdoor, so are they? And then what do you do? What kind of rain or inclement weather policies do you have?
Yeah, at SDSU, our main campus ceremonies are held at Viejas Arena, so we're indoors. We do have a new stadium, Snapdragon Stadium, so there was a big talk about, are we moving over to Snapdragon? And we researched it and just decided, we wouldn't have that weather plan over there, so that's why we kept our ceremonies at our main campus. So yeah, we are indoors.
Melissa, I think
Carolyn?
let me add to that.
Carolyn?
I think being indoors has your retention of people staying because they're not suffering the heat. So I think that keeps your audience and your grads to the end. Also, I think that helps.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Carolyn, what do you guys do at Berkeley? What do y'all do?
Yeah, we so our winter ceremony is inside, thank goodness. But we did sell out this year, so we're gonna have to look at that again. And that's our largest indoor venue that we have on campus. So we'll have to see if we're going to make any modifications to our policies about tickets and all of that to see if we need to limit in some way there, or if we need to consider off-campus venues. That's a possibility, but it doesn't feel as warm and connected to the university sometimes, not all the time, certainly.
Right.
For the California Memorial Stadium, our football stadium, where we hold the spring commencement, and a lot of our department graduations are also outdoors in our Greek theater, which is a music venue. We both are rain or shine, and everyone is notified about that in advance. Often the shine is actually more troublesome than the rain. So adding a lot of water stations, we do a lot of planning to make sure that hydration is a thing, especially when our local bar Kips likes to open at 5 a.m. for the grads the morning of commencement. So if safety, we try to get ahead of all of that. On the rain side of things, it's mostly folks know what they're getting into, and we just communicate really well. The biggest challenges have been umbrellas because they're not permitted in the football stadium because they block the view of someone else, and that's a danger. So we have negotiated that in the past with PD to evaluate the specific safety risk in that moment. When we had general admission seating, we did make an exception one year and allow them because in theory, we were more easily able to relocate someone who had an umbrella and was blocking a view and avoid a conflict that way. For our graduates, the last time that we had a rainy ceremony, which I think was 2019, yeah, 2019, we had a drizzly ceremony. California rain isn't like other parts of the country rain. We don't tell our zero waste, but we got lots of shower caps and clear ponchos to put over regalia so that you could see all the great work that they did on their graduation mortarboards.
Yeah, that sounds great. Carmela, anything you want to add about your ceremonies, indoor, outdoor, rain?
Ours are at the stadium. So for the most part, there's a lot of overhang and there's a lot of coverage. Our problem is with sun. Everybody gets very hot. So we do have a ton of water stations around. We ask the students before processional to go get water and then go use the bathroom. And then last year it actually started to drizzle. No, but we didn't do anything about it. It is what it is. If it really starts to rain, which it has not in the 5 years, then the staff at the stadium can handle that because they do this every day during game season with 45,000 people. So they know how to handle the inclement weather. So the staff at the stadium has that under control.
Okay. So the next question is a combo. It really talks about addressing pain. So, I think all of you mentioned that you've made changes. What's the process for implementing these changes? What's the response, especially like we've talked about scripts, placements, and then fees. So if you can just talk about how you handle changes to get them to be successful.
I can
Carolyn,
start
you
it.
want to go?
So,
Oh, great,
oh,
Melissa, go right ahead.
sure. Yeah. So, as we talked about, we try to do a lot of, meetings, focus groups with, key stakeholders and, get their feedback. And then we come back with recommendations and we really, present those to our president. And then she really just disseminates that information, from the top down. So it gets shared with our deans and then they share it within the colleges. So, in terms of the script changes, we didn't have any issues. She signed off on all of the changes, all of the sections that we removed, and was on board with that. And then it's just communicated from there. So I think just those key meetings are important to get that buy-in.
Yeah, agree. Carolyn?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I'll lean into even more so, like making sure that all of the stakeholders are in the room and in the conversation early. RACI matrices are super helpful when that happens. There are people that think that they need to be contributing to the decision, that just need to be informed about the decision. So making that distinction early, and figuring out who your key stakeholder is, your decision maker, who ultimately like has the say, and that is the person to convince, and then important to get buy-in from everyone else. But selling someone who isn't going to be making the decision isn't always the best use of time and energy and resources.
Right.
And then communicating out not just what the decision is, but also why.
Mhm.
The explanation may not be accepted, but in our experience, folks really appreciate understanding the rationale and the process that went into it. At the very least, hopefully making it clear that it was a thoughtful decision and
Mhm.
not just one that someone made on a
And
random meeting
mhm.
one afternoon.
Yeah, makes sense. Carmela, anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm going to use all your presentations to go back and say, hey, can we cut everything to a 5-minute spoken program and the rest will be students?
So we're at time. I do have a few more questions, so feel free if you need to drop off. We understand. But there's a question here about affinity ceremonies and when and where they take place. So, Carmel, I'll start with you, and we'll just go down the line, make it quicker. Do you offer affinity ceremonies, and do they take place, and are you part of that organization and execution?
No, have nothing to do with it, thank goodness. And Student Affairs does that.
Okay, Carolyn?
Our affinity group graduations are considered department graduations, by very general nomenclature. And so those are planned and operated by the staff students that run those groups. And they are welcome to be in our Google group and participate and add their information to our website. And we do our best at the campus-wide level to address those, just like we do every other department graduation.
Yeah, sounds good. Melissa, Jackie, what about for all of you at affinity celebrations? Do you have a role?
Most of them again are student affairs led, but we do sit on a couple committees if the president is going to be present. So we have a trans-border ceremony that takes place across the border, and this year having a ceremony that will take place inside of a combo program called Vista that works with inmates that are graduating. So anywhere the president may be speaking or conferring, the provost, we act in an advisory role to the committee. But again, we kind of, like Carmela said, we let them lead and just help support. Would you add to that, Melissa? Or?
Yeah, and then we do include a list of all of the various graduations on our commencement website, so we do promote them there.
Great. All right, and last question. What about teleprompters? Do you use them, not use them, and who sets them up, who breaks them down, who's responsible for their usage?
Yeah, I can go. We do use a teleprompter. It's the same guy every year, and he's amazing. We
Is it a
are
vendor?
indoors. Yeah, it's a vendor. So that's what he does, and we use him for other events on campus as well. But we do have script binders just in case, of course. What if it goes down, or some people prefer to still use their binders, so we always prepare script binders for all of the speakers.
Okay, great. Carolyn?
We usually only do it if the keynote requests. We do have a vendor that we work with if it is requested, and they have a good partnership with the AV vendor for the stadium. Our chancellors in the past have not preferred teleprompters, so we haven't leaned into that. And with many of our student speakers, and even some of our alumni award winners, things like, or other speakers, we found that if they haven't used teleprompters frequently, they may not actually be comfortable with it, and they may be more comfortable with the paper. But of course, looking up is a much better experience on camera. And I'm really interested in San Diego State's recording of speakers because you can also get better eye contact and do multiple takes and all of that. So I'll be taking that one back to the rest of the team.
Awesome. Glad that you all learned something too. Carmela, what about teleprompters?
And you know what? Shannon just asked, do they
About
work outdoors?
outdoors?
Well, yeah, we don't use one because we are outdoors and there's so much glare. So they just use the script that we put on the podium. That's it.
Okay.
We did use it when we were at Petco Park. We went to Petco in 2021 and we still used our teleprompter. So I think they have, special screens when you're outdoors. So yes, they still can work, I believe, outdoors.
Yeah, we use it at Cal State Monterey Bay, but you're right. You have to have good coverage on your stage in order for there to be good visibility. Okay, well, we are over time. Thank you so much. This was such a great presentation. We knew it would be. Thank you so much to Melissa and Jackie and Carolyn and Carmela. Thank you all for being here. We will be making the materials available on our intranet. Give us a couple of days and we'll work with Sam to make sure we get a link out to everybody. You can share all this great information and we look forward to seeing you next month. And our topic next month, hold on one second, is going to be, oh, I don't have it pulled up. I am so sorry. I think it is either going to be on apps, or it's on social media. Social media, that's what it is. It's social media, kind of like the hows and whats and how to do something quick. And it's going to be a great hands-on where you can really learn how to add music, do videos, captions, all those kind of things. So hopefully everyone will leave having posted something to our Instagram account. So it'll be a bonus for everybody. So thank you so much for being with us. We look forward to being with you again. Here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.